Hey everyone, it's Kenlyn, and welcome back to my channel for the Astro and Energy Report for the week of January 19th. Super huge. What can I say? I've been saying that a lot, but it's super big times that we're in right now. Cycle change, cycle shift. So this week we have the Sun meeting up with Pluto, the Lord of Death and Rebirth. So this ripple effect that I'm going to talk about today is going to last most likely the rest of the year. And of course, we have Pluto in Aquarius for 19 years. So this is perhaps some writing on the wall for what gets to be rebooted in your life, because Pluto is the Lord of death and rebirth. It's really the archetype of transformation. It's like the dark goddesses, like Kali Ma. We have to go into the depths to unearth what is hidden, what is our shadow, what we don't want to see in order to fully shine. And that to me is the representation of this sun, our shining brightly, our soul, our self, our real self, our true self, and Pluto, the Lord of Death and Rebirth. So I'm going to talk about that. And we have an inauguration of a new president happening tomorrow, January 20th, in the United States. That was a part of this whole Capricorn to Aquarius Pluto transit that ushered in a completely disruptor president. So every area of our lives is about ready to shift and change, from healthcare to banking to our relationship with foreign countries. Everything, TikTok, everything is going to shift and change. And now I'm neutral about it because we're always in duality, going to have a this and a that. And so if you're playing the consciousness game, you're going to know that it's where you feed your attention that grows. So the matrix, part of the matrix is to fearmonger, make everything super scary. So we feed our attention there. Think about people who sit in front of the television and watch the freaking news all day, all night. They're feeding this like beast, the matrix, the beast of this fear mongering. That's not what we're up to. We're not doing that. This is consciousness astrology helping us find that groove, find where the flow is, and put our attention there so that we can evolve in our frequency. No lower frequencies here, right? They need not apply. All right. So we have a disruptor president coming in on the 20th, being inaugurated. So we're going to see what happens from then on. And look, we have a say. We have a say through our consciousness, what we put our attention on. Then the sun moves into Aquarius. I think it's around 4 o'clock in the morning. So by then the sun will be in Aquarius. So isn't that interesting? On that same day, the sun moves into Aquarius. And what does it do? Who's already sitting there? Pluto. Pluto's already sitting there. I think maybe at 1 degree now. So the sun will be at 0 degrees and then it'll move and it'll be right on Pluto. Interesting. So it forms this conjunction and they operate as one. A conjunction is when they operate as one. So of course, over 30 days, the sun's going to travel faster and it's going to move on. But we're going to get this reboot in the area of our chart where Pluto is sitting. Not only that, but our collective reboot. So let's talk about each of our signs. I've never done this before, but it should be really fun. And I think it's really important. I know this is how I use astrology, and I want to share this with you so that you can use it in a way to orient your third eye, your growth, where you're going, your attention. Because Pluto is going to ask you to release something, to let it go, let it die, kill it off, let it go in order for something new to be born. And this is really the message that we've been hearing in so many ways in spirituality of being detached from what we think, because who the we usually is the ego mind, that identity, that false self, which isn't anything. It's not a self. It's just a frequency, a low vibrational frequency of patterned, low programming ways of being, thoughts, programmed thoughts from our lineage, from our religion, from our culture, keeping us stuck. And we're about ready to blow some of that apart. So use this as an opportunity to wake up. That's really what Pluto wants. All right. So the quote that I have is from a poet that the astrologer I like to follow is Laurie Lothian. She's really great. She's in Canada. And she talked about this poet. Her name is May Sarton. And she said this thing, and I think it's really great and it's worthy of repeating. I like to disseminate. It's worthy of disseminating. We have to dare to be ourselves. We have to dare to be ourselves, no matter how frightening or how strange that self may be. And I love that because we're in Aquarius. And so there's a lot of strange shit that's going to happen. And perhaps we find ourselves kind of weird on the inside. But here's your permission slip, as if you really need one. You don't. You don't need any permission from the outside. That is to inside yourself, give yourself permission to be yourself. This is the sun on Pluto. So somewhere in your life, something is going to radically shift to help you come more into yourself. That's the whole game, to know who you really are. You're not this thing that you've been identifying with, right? We're not. So we get to fully wake up. In Pisces rising, you're going to be last, but the best is last. So you're going to want to stay tuned for the Pisces rising. Now, in these transmissions, I go by whole sign astrology, and I'm going to break it down for you so that you can follow along. But you can also read into it for your sun sign. You can read into it for your moon. Your moon is your emotions, your feeling body. Your sun, I like to think of that as my dharma, my true self, like the expression of this template in this lifetime, in this moment. And then your rising is really everything else, your embodied sense of who you are. They sometimes say like the mask, but I think it's more like the school that you're here to be in. You know, I like it that way. The school that you sign up for in life to actualize your sun. So that's the rising sign. And that's what we read for in astrology, because in whole sign astrology, your rising is always in the first house. And each house occupies a sign. So we're not going around saying, well, it's third and fourth. We're not. We're just saying one house. So if you don't know your chart at all and you'd like to, you can go into astro.com and you can run your chart with you have to have your birth time. If you don't know your birth time, one of the fun tricks I like to do is put in a bunch of different birth times and then read my rising sign and see what really nails it. It's not scientific, but it's fun. So you go to astro.com, you run your chart, and you run it with whole sign astrology. And you can figure that out. It's really easy. So what we're going to do is go around the zodiac and talk about what's actually happening in your sign, in your rising, in your school, in your earth school. What lesson are you getting next? All right. So, yeah, this is big. And, you know, Aquarius is a fixed sign. So what's the opposite of Aquarius? Leo. So Leo's a fixed sign. And then we've got Taurus and Scorpio. So because we're talking about this fixed energy of Pluto and Aquarius, it's going to hit all fixed signs. And fixed signs, I know because I have a fixed rising sign, fixed signs hate change. So yeah, we can just like send love to our earth school selves. Like, yeah, we're in for some big, big change right now. The cool thing about this, though, is that we have a chance in our lifetime, and I don't think our parents had this or our grandparents had this. And if yours did, they were one of the few lucky ones to really be self-expressed, to really be who you are in this lifetime, to follow the deeper desires, not your craving desires, but the deeper desires that live apart from money or fame or attention, that just want your self-expression. Like it's like God being creative here just because it wants to. It wants to know itself. It's super curious. This is the energy that gets to be liberated when Pluto wipes the deck. So let's start with Aries, because Aries is the first sign in the zodiac. And while it's not linear, it's a circle. And I always say a circle this way, and on camera it's backwards. We go counterclockwise around, so it would be that way. We go counterclockwise around the wheel. And we begin at Aries and we end at Pisces, but then that's a new birth. So we're always rebirthing ourselves with that Pisces, Aries axis. And that happens in our calendar right before the equinox. When we go into Aries, we've got this like birth canal time. So another rebirth into the astrological new year. So right now we've got the sun and Pluto making a conjunction, which is a beneficial energy that amplifies the energy of both two very powerful celestial bodies. That's why I'm saying the reverberations are going to happen throughout this year. We have Jupiter in Gemini, who's about ready to go direct on, I think, February 4th. So Jupiter, the benefic, like the expander of abundance, the wise one, the guru, the teacher, is somewhere in your chart, wherever Gemini is in your chart, sending this flowing abundance to this part of your chart. Let's just put that construct together. I love that. So think of it that way. And so I have a little chart myself where I put together where the sun and Jupiter, which houses they are according to your rising. So I'm going to follow along with my charts, my little handmade chart. So here we have Aries. So it's Aries rising. That means Aries is in the first house. So that's your Earth school, Aries, learning to be bold, be independent, be the warrior and the champion of your truth. That's Aries in the first house. Pluto for you is in the 11th house. So what is that? That's 11th house has a lot of themes to it. It's community, but it's also long-term wishes and goals and hopes and dreams. And Jupiter would be in your third house. That's where Gemini is, in your third house. So one of the things I want to say to you is that you haven't even scratched the surface of your soul work. I love that. I love that. So what awaits for you is this deeper soul work, because you're going to tap deeply into your desires. And the reason why we say that is with Jupiter in the third house, that's like community. I mean, there's a lot of things too. That's like your online community. That's your social media. That's your neighbors. There's so much in the third house. But this energy is flowing to you to open up a deeper sense of what you have been longing for. And I love that you haven't even scratched the surface. So there may be things that need to go, and it could be friendships that will open up a whole new world for you. So I know it's hard to lose friends. And if that's the case, and I'm not saying it is, because every one of us, if every Aries rising is going to play this out according to your own template and situation, circumstances, but it could be one of the things. And that's why it's always good to learn what these houses represent, because they don't often stick to one thing. There's a variety of things. So in this place, what stirs the deepest parts of you? What are your real dreams? So your social networks and your groups are probably going to change. So this is a reset in some big area of your life. I think that's pretty exciting to think about. And there's going to be loss there. All right, let's move on to Taurus. Taurus rising. And again, if you're a sun Taurus or if you're a moon Taurus, you can see how these themes might apply to you. But really, the houses belong to the Taurus rising. That means that Pluto is in your 10th house. You are set for a major freaking reboot in your career. And Jupiter is in your second house, who's been retrograde. So you haven't really felt the abundance yet from that second house Jupiter retrograde. But Jupiter will go direct and then it will flow to that 10th house. However, we're talking about Pluto. So some big changes got to happen inside your career. As Lori Lothian said, because this is what I'm looking at, is the Taurus rising, some part of your career may need to get killed in order for the blessings to flow. So interesting. So really what I like to do is think about like my hands gripped and just open my hands, just let it go. It's okay. Allow what's going to happen and tune into the inner current that knows what to do next. And so be silent and still until you know that. Don't think about it. Don't spin. Just be silent and still. This is for every sign. It's big. It's big. But when Pluto reinvents your career, holy shit, that's amazing. But maybe not at first. So Gemini, it's big for you, Gemini, because Gemini in the first, it's got Jupiter with you. So you've had Jupiter on your ascendant since last year. By the way, Jupiter moves out of Gemini and into Cancer on June 9th. So we're really talking about half a year with this kind of flow. And then it'll shift. Jupiter will be in Cancer. And so we'll have a different kind of energy flowing to that Pluto in whatever house. So for you, it's like this 9th house is where Aquarius is. So what's getting rebooted is your relationship to God. I love that. I mean, it's also the house of higher learning, higher education, foreign travel, but it's the house of God. I mean, so who you are, how you move in the world, your Earth school is going to be about God, your transformation around the divine. I think, yes, more of that, please. Yes. And sometimes, we have to go through, this is where I had my Pluto in Capricorn. And sometimes we have to go through this cathartic death and rebirth, like letting go of a guru. That's actually a really good thing to do for all of us in the Aquarian age. We don't need them. We are the guru. So it's really going to be a time of deeply knowing yourself. I think that's a really beautiful next 19 years. That's the only game in town, really. So what's your dharma? What's your purpose? What's your meaning in life? If you have any existential crises, don't freak out. Seriously, don't. Just know that that crisis is a part of what's going to catalyze you to a new place of self-realization. I love this. So yeah, go within. I mean, know who you are from the inside out. Isn't this fun? I hope it's fun for you. All right, the next one is Cancer. Cancer, you have Pluto in Aquarius in the 8th house. That is the house of death and rebirth. So you've got like a double death and rebirth. Wow. Right? You're like, yay. It also is the house of the occult. So the mysteries, capital M. So you could be getting a reboot or going on a pilgrimage. That's actually more 9th house, but getting a reboot in your sense of the mysteries. You could also, it rules like mortgages, banking, other people's money, investment. You could actually get really wealthy under this as well. Or you could go into a lot of debt and then transform the debt and get wealthy. So however you have to play it out for your body, mind to get the teaching, because Jupiter is going to be in Gemini, is in Gemini in your 12th house. So there's money in these houses, just in a different way. It's not earned money. It's money that comes to you from investments, from other people. So this could be a big wealth reboot, perhaps. I think that's something I'd claim. Also, yeah, it's that death and rebirth of the 8th house is dying to that ego self, who you think you are, and realizing who you truly are. I think that's the biggest wealth that's available. And you might also, make some money. Any kind of secrets, like family secrets, those will be unearthed because, again, the 8th house it's also like double transformation. So it's going to bring up things that you perhaps haven't seen or didn't want to see. It's a very skin shedder house. And we are in the Asian New Year, initiates us into the year of the snake. So we are in transformation. So you kind of got triple transformation if we put that in. All right. Right. That's intense. But you know what? You could be wealthy. Get rid of all the stuff that's in your way. Let's go to Leo. So Leo, the sun in Aquarius and Pluto are going to meet in your 7th house. That is your house of partnerships. That's long-term committed partnerships, or that can be romantic or business. It's any kind of partnership. It's really the house of the other. It's opposite the 1st house, which is house of the self. And then this is house of the other. So something could happen to your partner in this one. It's also the marriage house. And so like the 10th house is getting married and the 7th house is being married. So this can bring death and rebirth to a long-term committed love relationship. It doesn't have to be the relationship itself. It could be the way that you hold relationships. Like maybe you've done them in really messed up ways before, but you're not going to do that anymore. You've done the work. You've really looked at your shadow. You've looked at your motives of what you think other people should be doing for you. And you've made better choices for a new relationship to come through. That could happen. Let's see where Jupiter is in the 11th house. So that's in your dreams and wishes. So I love that. It could be activating those dreams and wishes for what you've always wanted for a relationship. It could also bring wealthy people into your world, your orbit. And it could also expand your dreams and goals. It could bring you new clients. Think about it that way. And it could also unearth like hidden stuff around your significant relationships right now. So really, again, Pluto, we got to let it happen because Pluto is the Lord of death and rebirth. Don't forget the rebirth when you're in a death cycle. All right, let's move on to Virgo. Virgo in the 6th is where Pluto is sitting, and the sun will be highlighting that, remember. That's your work and your service in the world. That's your health. That's your pets. That's your daily routine. I just had my South Node getting worked when we had the Aries Libra axes, and holy crap, that 6th house, because it can bring up health issues. And so maybe you had a bad health habit that's going to get transformed by a health scare. I hate to say that, but sometimes we don't really pay attention until we have to pay attention. So if you're listening to this and you are a Virgo rising, then just dial it in with your health. Like, stop messing around. You already know inside yourself, you already know. And then you got lots of excuses. So now we get to employ the discipline and focus there. It could be your work in the world, your service, because Jupiter is flowing from the 10th. So Jupiter has been in your career house. So you could have a whole rebirth around the way that you deliver your work, your daily service, the way you show up every day. That's a better one than the health, maybe, but you could lose a job to get another job. Again, when we're talking about Pluto, we have to have like be not attached to however it gets served up. So again, as from a consciousness perspective, we're expecting that whatever Pluto destroys and we open to, it's like Kali Ma, it's for love, it's for our Dharma, it's for us. So we're just occupying as neutral a space as possible and letting it go. You know, it doesn't have to be hard. And if it is, feel the feels, let it move through you. Like, go get my video from last week about how to cry, how to have emotions, and then move through it to this place of expansion, because you could really get some big expansion in the way that you show up every day. Your service in the world could totally expand. That's beautiful. All right, that was for Virgo rising. Now let's move to Libra rising. Libra rising, that your Pluto is in the 5th house. So 5th house is children, gambling, creative pursuits, and romance. It's also joy, happiness, like that pleasure. So think about somewhere, you know, you get to remove an obstacle to all of that, not the gambling, but all the other stuff. You get to remove that. This is where people become pregnant sometimes in this 5th house when this is activated. But if you're not of that age, then think of it as like a creative birth or the birth of a romance. It's a new beginning. It's also like entrepreneurial endeavors here. And through the entrepreneurialism, you could become a self-made person. You could literally, you know, like you're getting, oh, I love this. You're getting Jupiter and Gemini from the 9th. So that's your God house. Isn't that? So the more that you are in right, like right, not right as in wrong, but like in the relationship with the divine that you know feels really good, that's just going to open up these portals of joy. And of course, shit is going to be shown to you that you have to let go of in the area of maybe a romance situation. Maybe it's something with your kids, like being overly attentive to your kids, like being in their lane. Maybe it's letting go of a creative project that is just like not going anywhere, or you have been shown it's not for you, even though you may be attached to it. And it also rules gender identity and sexuality. So I know a lot of people, especially with Aquarius, are changing their gender identity. And that's going to, like, once they give themselves permission, it's going to free up so much space for happiness. So I love this one a lot because that Libra in the creative house is connected to the God house, Jupiter in the God house. Just how can it get any better than that? You could also go on pilgrimages. You can find yourself teaching. You could publish a book. Oh, and I love this one. Lori Lothian said you could close out a chironic wound about relationships. I know someone who is a Libra, but Libra sun, who's closing out a chironic wound around relationships. So if you're a Libra rising, hallelujah. Yes, it's time to let go of that, perhaps like attachment wound, like truly let it go. It is already been working you and you've been working it, and it's time. And that's what this Pluto will help you do if that's the way it shows up for you. All right, let's move to Scorpio. We have a few left. Scorpio is in the 4th. No, Scorpio, your Pluto's in the 4th. And your Gemini, Jupiter and Gemini is in the 8th. So you could be moving because 4th house is your home. Like usually 3rd is the act of packing up, but the 4th is your home. So it's either your inner home, your inner temple. So that, again, rebooting your inner self. Maybe you're self-validating and self-sovereign, no longer looking outside yourself for permission or for relationships to complete you. This is Scorpio rising. Or you literally can be moving, changing your house. You also could receive wealth because we got 8th house Jupiter. That's other people's money. That's money from insurance. That's money from investments. So there could be that flow that's happening to you. Let's move to Sagittarius. Sagittarius rising. Again, you can look at it if you're a sun or moon in Sag. You have Pluto in your 3rd house, and you've got Jupiter in your 7th house. So interesting. Here's what's happening. 3rd house can have a lot of different meanings. It could be that you're changing your neighborhood, could be that movement. It's also got to do with siblings. It could do with your online business. I think that's really likely for a lot of the people who follow this channel. It could be also short-term travel, but it's a lot of busyness there. But really what I think that I would focus on is a renewal in teaching and writing, because if we've got, that's the 3rd house, and the flow is coming from the 7th house. So it could be even that it's coming from a partnership, or you're going to sign a partnership, or it also rules the audience. So that's interesting. So Jupiter in your audience flowing to your online business. How about that? Or flowing to your book, flowing to your creative project, or like some kind of social media project, really, because that's what's governed by the 3rd house. These are harder to tell because it is so many things in the 3rd house, but that's for you to excavate and dig in. If you're a Sag rising, maybe it's time, like I know a Sag rising, and I would say that it's time for them to show up more visibly on social media and be seen. They could also be writing a book at this point. There's a couple of places where writing a book is indicated. So this person could write a book and then get seen in those areas. I'm a Sag sun, so I'm claiming that for social media and communications in my online business. I think that's a wonderful reboot, and we'll see what happens with TikTok, right? So there's allegedly a ban that's happening on TikTok. Trump is taking office tomorrow, and he said that he's going to try to delay it or stop it or change it. So let's see what happens. Now, let's move into Capricorn. Your Pluto is in the 2nd house because you, Capricorn, had your butts kicked for the last 15 years. And who you are now is because of Pluto. So it's a long transit, and it's hard to pin it all down, but you can just look at the big arc of who you've become. And we get to say congratulations to you. You made it. I know a lot of Capricorns, and like y'all are exhausted. So yes, take a break, take a breather. You've got Pluto in your 2nd house. So all the work that you did in that 1st house, if you're a rising sign, is going to translate into new riches. And so that 2nd house is being fed by the 6th, the Jupiter in the 6th house. So what we're saying now is, what do you value actually? Like, that's money, and it's also values in the 2nd house. So you get a regeneration of your wealth scene based on your new values. I know a Capricorn sun who has completely different values than they did 15 years ago. Like, I did not think this person would ever become spiritual. They're totally spiritual now, totally new values. It's re-energizing her work, and it's going to change the landscape of how she earns money, because 6th house, earning money, is going to change the whole landscape. So what do you value? And also that wealth coming from the alignment of your values with your work and service in the world. So your work is an expression of your value. I know that that's happening for a Cancer sun, as I said. I think that's super exciting. Let's see. Someone put it this way: acts of service that open up a field of plenty. That's for that Capricorn. So your acts of service that open up a field of plenty. Beautiful. All right, we have 2 more houses. Remember, I said the best is last, so hold on a second. Aquarius, your 1st house, you're up to bat. This is your time. This is the most powerful time in your life. Aquarius sun, moon, and rising. You are getting a total freaking reboot. If you're Aquarius sun, total reboot. Like, you're going to be a whole different person at the end of this 20 years. Like, we all are different at the end of 20 years, but your number is being called. I remember when Pluto was in Sagittarius. Totally remember. I had a lot of massively transformating experiences. And who I am today is a result of that. So Pluto in the 1st, your sun, your rising. So you're going to have, like, your rising's in the 1st, you'll have Pluto there, and you'll have your sun there too. So a lot of action happening in the next couple of weeks. Happy birthday. And Jupiter is in Gemini in the 5th. This is truly the most important or most potent time of your life. It's going to reveal new things about yourself, your path, your embodiment. You get to open up the floodgates of more joy, more pleasure. Please do that, because sometimes Pluto can be a bitch, and in that death and rebirth process, but use pleasure, at least for the next 6 months, and joy and creativity as your touchstone. You're getting a new energy field. That's huge. So upgrade. Upgrade through your attention, Aquarius. Where are you putting your attention? If you're putting your attention on all the things that are not working, or your victim consciousness, or poor me, do a little existential kink on that. Play with it. Come up to joy and pleasure. Like, existential kink is like an awesome practice. You can Google it. It's from, she changed her name, but Carolyn Elliott is now Carolyn Lovewell, and that's who wrote it. So existential kink would be just a freaking like Aquarius rising Jupiter fifth house practice. Okay, let's move on to the last but not least, Pisces rising. Goddess bless you, Pisces rising, because you have Pluto in your 12th house. So what is 12th house? Well, some people say it's the house of undoing. I like to think of it as the undoing of your ego self, of the ego identity, of the ego matrix, because that's not who you really are. So I don't mind undoing in that way. You can self-sabotage, but like, that's not the game we're playing here. We're playing the see-through game. And that's what's possible here with that sun, and the sun in Aquarius and Pluto in Aquarius in your 12th house. What's possible is you waking up, like self-realization. I think this is the goal. This is like the only game in town, self-realization. So a new seed gets planted. The 12th house is the house of even aloneness and being silent, still, in solitude. So those are the things you're going to want to give yourself to foster the seed, the practices that foster the seed. We went through it today in my workshop, The World is Your Oyster. So you're being fed by the fourth. That fourth is that sense of home. Maybe home becomes your sanctuary, and that sanctuary is the sanctuary that fosters the seed. Or it's like a new home. Like, your home used to be in this anxious ego mind identity, but now the home is really in the true seat of home, the home of the I am. That's what's possible, Pisces rising. I'm going to claim that. I have a Pisces moon. I'm claiming it. So you also could have some home, property, land success, because this is, the 12th can have money attached to it, the fourth home, but it's a powerful regeneration and renewal, maybe even the fruition of your past lives, like all the things in a past life trajectory that you have been through as a soul, you are culminating in, because Pisces represents completion. So you could be in the 12th house, like this completion. Things may happen in your dream state so you're not even maybe consciously aware of it. But I would say put attention on the I am inside, and use practices to let go of identifying, attaching to cravings or programming from that electromagnetic interference. We could call that your ego EMI, the ego mind identity. Let go of that stuff so that you actually see yourself, the true self, and you can distinguish between that and the avatar you, the not self you. I think this is like amazing. And it's also, the last thing I'd say about it is also, why in India, in other cultures, people, after they were householders, they raised their children and they worked. And then when they retired, they didn't sit around and watch Fox News all day. They didn't go golfing. They went into ashrams, because that was the time in their life where they could dedicate fully to waking up. This is that energy signature. I'm excited for you. All right, so there we have it. We have the whole zodiac. Let me know if that was helpful. Let me know how you feel it's showing up in your own life. These are just broad themes that you get to find how is the paint painting on your canvas, and use your imagination, like the imaginal world, to step into a new frequency, because this is certainly a new cycle. We are feeding and seeding a new cycle. It's time for humanity to completely wake up from the dream. And, this is the garden. Like, as the Course in Miracles said, we never left the garden. We only thought we left it. So I'm going to leave you on that big note, because it's a big transmission and big times, gathering all the positive energy we have generated, beaming it out. May all beings benefit from the merits of our efforts.